The stars looked different now, though Captain Taemin couldn't explain why. He stood on the bridge of his survey ship, the Coalition vessel Seeker's Path, watching the swirling colors of the Outer Veil Nebula through the view screen. His crew had been mapping this region for 3 months, cataloging dead rocks and frozen gas clouds. Nothing exciting ever happened out here, in the frontier zones. "Captain, I'm reading something unusual," his sensor officer called out. The young Vaxen's scales flickered with confusion, a sign of genuine puzzlement in his species. Taemin moved to the sensor station. "What kind of unusual?" "Large mass signature, very large. It's just drifting in the nebula cloud ahead." The officer's clawed fingers danced across his console. "Running identification protocols now." The view screen shifted, zooming toward a dark shape against the purple and blue gases. At first, it looked like an asteroid. Then the computer enhanced the image, and Taemin felt his breath catch in his throat. It was a ship. Not just any ship, a massive warship that made his survey vessel look like a child's toy. "Size analysis," Taemin ordered, his voice tight. 3.2 kilometers long. Hull composition is titanium alloy, with unknown reinforcement materials. Design pattern matches. The sensor officer paused, his scales turning pale. "Captain, this matches archived human construction from over 800 years ago." The bridge went silent. Everyone knew about humans. They were legends now. Stories told to new Coalition cadets. A species that had built an empire, and then vanished without a trace. Their empty worlds had been absorbed into Coalition territory long ago. Most species preferred not to think too hard about what might have caused an entire civilization to disappear. "Are you certain?" Taemin asked. "Computer confirms it. That's a human supercarrier. Designation reading as UHSV Indomitable." The officer looked up at his captain. "Sir, this is a restricted archaeological find. Protocol requires we report immediately and maintain distance." Taemin studied the massive derelict. Its hull was scarred and blackened in places, evidence of some ancient battle. No lights showed in its viewports. No energy readings registered on sensors. It looked dead, a ghost from a forgotten era. "Scan for life signs," Taemin said. "Negative. No biological readings. No power generation. The ship appears completely inactive." Ji Woo, the science officer, moved closer to examine the data. She was human-descended herself, though her ancestors had been integrated into Coalition society generations ago. Most people forgot that a few thousand humans had been away from their homeworlds when the disappearance happened. Their descendants now served in Coalition fleets, often curious about their mysterious heritage. "Captain, I'm detecting something," Ji Woo said, her eyes widening. "Very faint energy signature. Deep inside the ship. It's barely there, but it's present. Could be residual decay from old power cells," the sensor officer suggested. "Maybe." Ji Woo didn't sound convinced. "Permission to launch a probe for closer examination?" Taemin hesitated. Protocol said to report and wait for specialized archaeological teams, but opportunities like this came once in a career. Launch probe, standard survey approach. The small probe detached from their ship and flew toward the massive carrier. It circled the hull, its cameras capturing every detail. The Indomitable looked like it had been built for war. Weapon ports dotted its surface. Launch bays large enough to hold dozens of fighter craft gaped open and dark. Everything about it spoke of power and purpose. The probe extended a mechanical arm and touched the carrier's hull, using contact sensors for better readings. Immediately, something changed. "Captain!" Ji Woo's voice rose in alarm. "The energy signature is increasing. Rapidly. One of the new. We're climb 7. We're climb 7. On the view screen, lights began flickering to life across the Indomitable's hull. First a few, then dozens, then hundreds. Red emergency lighting glowed in the viewports. Deep inside the ship, something was waking up. "Pull the probe back," Taemin ordered. Before they could react, automated defense turrets swiveled on the carrier's hull. They tracked the probe with mechanical precision but didn't fire. Instead, a transmission burst across all frequencies. The language was ancient human standard, but the computer translated instantly. Unknown vessel, identify yourself immediately. Provide authorization codes. Failure to comply will result in defensive action. The voice was artificial, clearly a computer intelligence. But there was something alert and aware in its tone that sent chills down Taemin's spine. "This is Coalition Survey Ship Seeker's Path," Taemin responded carefully. "We mean no harm. We discovered your vessel drifting and—" "Coalition?" The voice interrupted. "Clarify. What is the current date?" "By Earth." Standard calendar. Jiwoo quickly calculated. "The date is March 15th, year 3247, by Old Earth reckoning." Silence followed. It stretched so long that Taemin wondered if the signal had been lost. Then the artificial voice spoke again. And this time, there was something almost like shock in its synthetic tone. 847 years. Impossible. Running diagnostic. Verifying internal chronometer. Another pause. Confirmed. Emergency protocols. Initiated. Beginning revival sequence for surviving crew. "Wait," Taemin said urgently. "Revival sequence? There are people on that ship?" "Affirmative." "This unit is Gordian. Artificial intelligence of the United Human Systems vessel Indomitable. 17 crew members have viable life signs in cryostasis. Beginning thaw procedures now." Jiwoo grabbed Taemin's arm. "Captain, humans. Real humans from before the disappearance. Do you understand what this means?" Taemin understood perfectly. It meant everything they thought they knew about humanity's fate might be wrong. It meant living witnesses to an era long past. It meant trouble. Because the Coalition had built its power structure on the foundation of abandoned human worlds. "Gordian, please wait." Taemin tried. "Your crew has been in stasis for over 8 centuries. They'll need medical care, orientation, support. This unit is programmed to protect Indomitable crew by any means necessary. Revival is proceeding. Recommend your vessel. Maintain safe distance. Defensive systems are now active." On their sensors, Jiwoo watched in amazement as more and more of the carrier systems came online. Reactors that should have been cold for centuries began generating power. Shield emitters hummed to life. The ship was literally rebuilding itself from dormancy. "Captain, what do we do?" the sensor officer asked. Taemin made a decision that would change everything. "We stay. We monitor. And we send an emergency transmission to Coalition Command. Tell them we've found something impossible. Tell them the humans are coming back." Deep inside the Indomitable, in a medical bay that hadn't seen use in over 800 years, 17 cryopods began their warming cycles. Inside one of them, Commander Hyunwoo's eyes flickered behind closed lids. His last memory was of battle stations, of alarms blaring, of his captain's final order to evacuate. He'd gone into the pod expecting to wake up in a few days. Instead, he was about to wake to a galaxy that had forgotten his people existed. He was about to wake to a universe that had moved on without humanity. And he was about to make sure that the galaxy remembered what it meant when humans said no. The Indomitable was alive again. And its crew would not be silenced. The first thing Hyunwoo felt was cold. Deep, bone-aching cold that made every muscle scream. Then came the light, burning through his closed eyelids. The cryopod hissed open and warm air rushed across his face. He tried to speak but only managed a rough cough. His throat felt like sandpaper. Strong hands gripped his shoulders, helping him sit up. Through blurry vision, he saw a woman in a medical uniform. Her name tag read, Da-eun, Chief Engineer. "Easy, Commander," she said softly. "Your body needs time to adjust." How long?" Hyunwoo managed to croak out. Daun's expression turned sad. Guardian says it's been 847 years. The words didn't make sense at first. 800 years? That had to be wrong. They'd only gone into cryo as an emergency measure during the battle. The plan was to wake up once the threat passed. Days at most. Maybe weeks. That's impossible, Hyunwoo said. But even as he spoke, he could see the truth in Daun's eyes. 17 of us made it, she continued. Out of 3,000 crew. The others, the pods failed over time. We're all that's left. Hyunwoo forced himself to stand, ignoring the weakness in his legs. Around the medical bay, other crew members were waking, being helped by Guardian's medical drones. He recognized some faces. Pilot Subin, looking confused and scared. Engineer Taeho, already asking questions about the ship's status. A handful of others, all wearing the same expression of shock. Guardian, Hyunwoo called out. Status report. The AI's voice came from speakers overhead. Welcome back, Commander. Ship status is critical but improving. Power at 20% and rising. Hull integrity at 82%. Primary systems are responding to repair protocols. Defensive capabilities are limited, but operational. And Earth? The fleet? What happened to everyone? A pause. Unknown, Commander. Long-range communications are offline. I have no contact with any human vessels or installations. Based on sensor data from the Coalition ship nearby, we appear to be the only humans in this sector. The only humans. The words hit Hyunwoo like a physical blow. What had happened to their civilization? Where had everyone gone? The Coalition ship, he said, focusing on immediate concerns. Are they hostile? Unknown. They've maintained distance and appear to be monitoring us. However, I intercepted their emergency transmission to Coalition Command. A response fleet is en route. Estimated arrival in 6 hours. 6 hours. Hyunwoo looked around at his tiny crew of 17 people on a ship built for thousands. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and 8 centuries out of date, but they were alive, and they had one advantage. They had the indomitable. Everyone to your stations, Hyunwoo ordered. Daun, I need you in engineering. Get as many systems online as possible. Subin, check the fighter bays. Guardian, compile everything you know about this coalition. I need to understand who we're dealing with. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, despite their confusion. They were military personnel, trained to push through chaos and focus on duty. It's what would keep them alive. Hyunwoo made his way to the bridge, his legs growing steadier with each step. The command center was dark, except for emergency lighting. But consoles were beginning to power up, one by one. He settled into the captain's chair, a seat that should have belonged to his captain. But Captain Dongmin hadn't made it. Hyunwoo was in command now. Guardian, show me what you learned, he said. The main view screen flickered to life, displaying information. The Coalition was an alliance of 12 species, formed 300 years after humanity's disappearance. They controlled vast territories, including what used to be human space. According to their historical records, humanity had been wiped out in a catastrophic war with an unknown enemy. The human worlds were found empty, cities abandoned, ships scattered. But something about the story didn't sit right with Hyunwoo. An entire species didn't just vanish. And if there had been a devastating war, where were the signs? Where were the destroyed worlds, the debris fields, the evidence of massive conflict? They're lying, he said quietly. Or they don't know the whole truth. Possible, Guardian agreed. However, I lack sufficient data to determine their motives. Before Hyunwoo could respond, the sensor station lit up with alerts. Commander. Multiple ships, dropping out of faster-than-light travel. 30 contacts. They're forming up around us. On the view screen, the Coalition fleet appeared. Sleek vessels with smooth hulls and glowing engines, They were smaller than the Indomitable, but there were 30 of them, and they looked modern and well-maintained. A transmission came through. Attention, human vessel. This is Delegate Krenthar of the Vaccine Coalition. You are ordered to power down all weapons and prepare to be boarded. Your vessel will be taken into Coalition custody for study and decommission. Hyun-woo felt anger flash through him. Decommission? They wanted to take apart his ship like it was scrap metal? Guardian, open a channel, he said calmly. Channel open, Commander. Delegate Krenthar. This is Commander Hyun-woo of the United Human Systems vessel, Indomitable. We appreciate your concern, but we will not be surrendering our ship. We're willing to talk, to cooperate peacefully, but the Indomitable remains under human command. There was a long silence. Then, Krenthar's voice came back, dripping with condescension. Commander, you don't understand your situation. You have 17 crew members on a derelict ship that's 8 centuries old. We have 30 modern warships. Humanity no longer has any claim to this territory or this vessel. You will comply, or you will be forced to comply. Is that a threat? Hyun-woo asked, keeping his voice level. It's reality. To demonstrate, I will show you what modern weapons can do. One of the coalition ships broke formation and moved toward a large asteroid nearby. Its weapons charged, glowing with purple energy. A beam lanced out, striking the asteroid. The rock exploded into thousands of fragments, completely vaporized. Impressive, Hyun-woo admitted. Guardian, what do we have? Fighter Bay 3 is operational. 48 SF-7. Talon fighters are ready for launch. Point defense lasers are online. Main shields at 30% capacity. Railguns are charging but will need another hour to reach full power. Da-eun's voice came through the internal tom. Commander, I need more time. The ship's been asleep too long. Systems are fighting me. How much time, Da-eun? At least 12 hours to get us to minimal combat capability. Krenthar's voice came back. You have 12 hours to decide, Commander. Surrender peacefully, or we will disable your ship and take it by force. Choose wisely. Hyun-woo looked around his bridge at the handful of crew members working frantically at their stations. 17 people against 30 ships. Impossible odds. Any sane commander would surrender. But Hyun-woo thought about his captain's last order. Protect the ship. Protect the crew. Never give up. He thought about the 3,000 people who hadn't made it out of cryo, who had trusted this ship to keep them safe. He thought about humanity, scattered or lost or hiding somewhere, and how they deserved better than to have their legacy stripped away by people who didn't understand what it meant. Subin, he called to the pilot station. Are those fighters ready? Yes, sir. Guardian can pilot them remotely if needed. Good. Hyun-woo took a deep breath. Guardian, I need you to calculate firing solutions for every ship in that fleet. When I give the order, I want those fighters launched, and I want our point defense active. Commander, Guardian said carefully, the odds of victory are statistically negligible. I'm not planning to destroy them, Guardian. I'm planning to show them that humans don't surrender just because someone tells them to. I'm planning to show them that 800 years hasn't changed who we are. He leaned forward in the captain's chair. Open the channel. When Krenthar's face appeared on screen, Hyun-woo spoke with absolute conviction. Delegate, I've considered your offer. My answer is no. The Indomitable belongs to humanity, and it will stay with humanity. If you attempt to take this ship by force, we will defend ourselves. I suggest you reconsider your position. Krenthar laughed, a harsh sound. You're insane. 12 hours, Commander. Then we end this farce. The transmission cut off. Around the bridge, the crew looked at Hyun-woo with a mixture of fear and determination. They all knew what he'd just done. He'd drawn a line in space and dared the coalition to cross it. Get me every advantage we can manage in 12 hours, Hyun-woo ordered. And someone find me information about humanity. Whatever happened to our people? I want to know. We're not alone out here. We can't be. As the crew scrambled to work, Hyun-woo stared at the Coalition fleet on the view screen. Somewhere out there, humanity still existed. He had to believe that. And when they heard that the Indomitable had refused to bow down, they would know that the spirit of Earth still burned bright. The countdown had begun. The 12 hours passed too quickly. Da-eun worked miracles in engineering, coaxing ancient systems back to life. The Indomitable's fusion reactors hummed with increasing power. Shield generators stabilized. Weapon systems performed diagnostic checks and reported ready status. But it still wasn't enough. 5 minutes until deadline, Guardian announced calmly. Hyun-woo stood on the bridge, watching the Coalition fleet maintain their positions around his ship. They looked confident, almost lazy in their formations. They'd probably never faced real combat, he realized. The Coalition had been at peace for centuries. They'd forgotten what war actually looked like. All fighters ready, Subin reported from the pilot station. Guardian has control of 48 Talons. I can personally fly lead fighter if needed. Negative. I need you on bridge sensors. Guardian can handle the fighters. Hyun-woo checked his console. Da-eun? Status? Shields at 42%. Point defense grid fully operational. Railguns charged to 60%. It's the best I can do, Commander. Thanks for watching. Lick-lack, it'll have to be enough. Hyun-woo opened the fleet-wide channel. Delegate Krenthar, this is your last chance to withdraw peacefully. We don't want bloodshed. Krenthar's image appeared on screen. The reptilian delegate looked amused. Your time is up, Commander. 3 of my destroyers will now disable your engines with precision strikes. Do not resist. Any defensive action will be met with overwhelming force. 3 Coalition destroyers broke formation and began their approach. They moved slowly, arrogantly, their weapons charged, glowing with that same purple energy. They're targeting our engine section, Subin called out. Weapons lock detected. Hyun-woo waited. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair. Everything depended on timing. The destroyers closed to optimal firing range, confident in their superiority. Now, Hyun-woo said quietly, the Indomitable's fighter bays exploded with activity. 48 Talon fighters launched in perfect sequence, their engines screaming to life. They moved like a swarm of angry hornets, fast and precise. The Coalition crews barely had time to react. Guardian controlled each fighter with inhuman precision. The Talons split into attack groups, weaving through space in patterns no organic pilot could match. They targeted the destroyer's engines and weapons with surgical accuracy. Missiles streaked across the void. Energy weapons flashed. At the same time, the Indomitable's point defense lasers activated. Hundreds of laser turrets tracked every incoming threat. When the destroyers fired their weapons, the beams met a wall of defensive fire. Every shot was intercepted, dissipated, neutralized. Not a single Coalition weapon touched the carrier's hull. The entire engagement lasted 90 seconds. When it ended, all 3 destroyers were drifting helplessly. Their engines destroyed, weapons offline, life support barely functioning. The Indomitable hadn't taken a scratch. Silence filled the comm channels. The Coalition fleet seemed frozen in shock. This is your only warning, Hyun-woo broadcast to all ships. Leave us alone, or the next engagement won't be so gentle. We disabled your ships. We could have destroyed them. Remember that. Krenthar's face reappeared, his scales pale with rage. You dare attack Coalition forces? This is an act of war. 1. No, delegate. This is self-defense. You threatened us. We responded. Now take your damaged ships and go. But Hyun-woo knew it wouldn't be that simple. He'd humiliated the Coalition in front of their own fleet. They couldn't let that stand. Sure enough, Krenthar snarled. You've signed your death warrant, human. A full battle fleet is being assembled. 120 warships will hunt you down. Enjoy your small victory. It will be your last. The coalition fleet withdrew, towing the damaged destroyers with them. The Indomitable was alone again in the nebula, but Hyun-woo knew that wouldn't last long. We need to move, he said. Plot a course to the old human frontier. Maybe we can find answers there. Our commander, with 120 ships hunting us, nowhere will be safe. Da-un warned over the comm. Then we'll keep moving. Guardian, engage faster than light drives. The Indomitable jumped away from the nebula, leaving the coalition forces behind. But Hyun-woo knew this was just the beginning. They'd made powerful enemies, and those enemies had resources his tiny crew couldn't match. Over the following weeks, the pattern repeated. The coalition fleet would find them, try to trap them, and the Indomitable would fight its way free. Each time, Hyun-woo used tactics the coalition didn't expect. Ancient human military doctrine emphasized speed, deception, and aggressive defense. The coalition had forgotten how to fight an enemy that refused to follow their rules. They jumped through 6 systems, each time staying just ahead of the pursuit fleet. Da-un continued, restoring the ship's systems. More fighter bays came online. The railguns reached full power. Automated repair systems began manufacturing new parts from raw materials, healing the carrier's old wounds. In the 4th system, they found something important. An abandoned human colony on a planet designated Ara-7. The settlement had been empty for centuries. Buildings overgrown with alien vegetation. But Subin discovered a data cache in what used to be the colony's administrative center. Commander, you need to see this, Subin said, her voice shaking. She transferred the data to the bridge. Hyun-woo read through the files, and with each line, his suspicions solidified. The truth was there, in evacuation orders, in ship manifests, in desperate final messages. Humanity hadn't been destroyed. They had left. Voluntarily. En masse. The records spoke of experimental faster-than-light gates, a breakthrough in travel technology. They spoke of a decision made at the highest levels of human government. The galaxy was becoming unstable, conflicts brewing between species. Humanity chose to leave, rather than be dragged into wars. They evacuated through the gates to somewhere beyond known space, somewhere safe. They left us behind, Da-un whispered when she read the files. Everyone who was in cryo. Everyone on long missions. They couldn't find us all in time, and the coalition found empty worlds and claimed them, Hyun-woo said bitterly. They built their power on human territory and technology. That's why they want the Indomitable gone. We're proof that humanity still has a claim here. If we could find the gates, we could follow them, Subin suggested. Find where everyone went. Maybe. But first we need to survive. Guardian, any sign of pursuit? Negative. However, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures in the system's outer edge. Analysis suggests coalition forces are setting up an ambush. Hyun-woo wasn't surprised. The coalition admiral, Vesh-kor, was getting smarter. He was learning from his failures. The next fight would be harder. Plot a course to the Cauldrous Expanse, Hyun-woo ordered. If they want to ambush us, let's choose ground that favors us. The Cauldrous Expanse was a massive nebula filled with electromagnetic interference. Sensors didn't work well there. Communications were spotty, but Hyun-woo was counting on Guardian's superior processing power to handle the chaos better than organic crews. They jumped into the expanse, and immediately the coalition trap became visible. Ships everywhere, positioned in a 3-dimensional net designed to catch them no matter which direction they ran. Admiral Vesh-kor had brought his entire fleet, 120 warships, all focused on one target. They've got us surrounded, Taeho reported from Tactical. No clear escape vector. Guardian, Hyun-woo said calmly. Execute Protocol Shadow Dancer. Shadow Dancer was an old human tactic, designed for exactly this situation. The Indomitable released hundreds of stealth drones, tiny automated craft that were nearly invisible to sensors. They drifted through the nebula on minimal power, attaching themselves to Coalition ship hulls like metal parasites. The Coalition fleet closed in, weapons charging. They probably thought they'd won. Hyun-woo waited until 90 ships had drones attached. "Execute," he ordered. The drones activated simultaneously. Each one sent a massive electromagnetic pulse directly through its host ship's hull. Shields flickered and died across the Coalition fleet. The Indomitable's fighters, already launched and hidden in the nebula, struck through the gaps. Chaos erupted. Coalition ships fired wildly, hitting each other as often as they hit fighters. The Indomitable accelerated hard. Its bow pointed directly at the thickest concentration of enemies. To an outside observer, it looked like suicide. But Hyun-woo knew his ship. Railguns, fire. The main guns spoke. Massive tungsten slugs launched at incredible velocity, punching through one ship and continuing to the next. The Coalition formation broke apart, ships scattering in panic. In the confusion, the Indomitable jumped to faster-than-light speed, vanishing from the expanse. Behind them, the Coalition fleet regrouped slowly, their admiral screaming orders to reform. On the bridge, Hyun-woo's crew celebrated their escape. But he knew the celebration would be short-lived. The Coalition couldn't afford to let them go now. They'd been humiliated too many times. "Guardian, continue broadcasting the old human recall signal," Hyun-woo ordered. "If our people are out there, they need to know we're here. They need to know someone still remembers." "Broadcasting continuously, Commander. However, I must point out that if the Coalition intercepts the signal, they will find us faster." "I know. But if we're going to die out here, I want our people to know that the Indomitable never surrendered. That matters more than survival." The ship jumped again, heading toward unknown stars. Behind them, the hunt continued. Ahead, an uncertain future waited, but Commander Hyun-woo and his crew of 17 kept flying, kept fighting, and kept hoping that somewhere in the vast galaxy, humanity would hear their call and remember that they were never truly alone. The Coalition Council met in emergency session on their capital world. 12 species represented. Dozens of delegates arguing in the Great Chamber. But everyone knew the real power sat with 3 individuals. The military commanders who controlled the Coalition's ultimate weapon. Admiral Veshkor stood before the council, his pride wounded by repeated failures. "The human vessel has escaped engagement 7 times. Conventional tactics are ineffective. They fight with strategies we don't understand, using doctrine from before the Coalition existed. Then we use unconventional methods," Counselor Rathick hissed, his insectoid mandibles clicking with agitation. "We have the Judgment Cannon. 3 dreadnoughts, working together, can generate enough power to vaporize that carrier in a single shot." Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Judgment Cannon was a doomsday weapon, designed to destroy planets if necessary. It had never been used in actual combat. Many council members found the idea horrifying. "That's an extreme measure," another councilor protested. "They're just 17 people. On one ship. 17 people who've made us look like fools," Veshkor snapped. 17 people broadcasting messages about humanity's return, spreading doubt about our territorial claims. If we don't end this decisively, we risk internal collapse. 3 member species have already requested investigations into how we acquired former human worlds. The debate raged for hours. But fear won out over caution. The vote passed. The Judgment Cannon was authorized for deployment. Aboard the Indomitable, Guardian detected the encrypted Coalition transmissions. The AI's processors worked tirelessly to break the codes, and after 6 hours, succeeded. What it found made every alarm on the ship activate at once. "Commander, priority alert," Guardian announced, waking Hyun-woo from the first real sleep he'd had in days. Hyun-woo was on the bridge in minutes. "Report." The Coalition has authorized use of a superweapon called the Judgment Cannon. 3 dreadnoughts will arrive at these coordinates in 5 days. A location appeared on the tactical display. Intelligence suggests the weapon can destroy planetary bodies. Power output estimates indicate it could penetrate our shields regardless of strength. The bridge crew assembled quickly, still rubbing sleep from their eyes. They'd all seen the data. The faces around Hyunwoo showed a mixture of fear and determination. "We can't outrun a weapon like that," Taeho said quietly. "If they're willing to use it, they'll keep hunting us until we're dead." "We could jump beyond the frontier," Subin suggested. "Get out of Coalition space entirely, and abandon any hope of finding our people?" Hyunwoo shook his head. "No, we've come too far to run now." "Then what do we do?" Daeun asked. "We're 17 people against an entire government." Hyunwoo looked at the data from the Ara-7 colony, still displayed on one console. The truth about humanity's departure. The Coalition's lies. The territory. Built on deception. An idea formed in his mind, crazy and desperate but possibly their only chance. "We tell everyone," he said. "Not just the Coalition leadership. Everyone. Every species. Every world. Every citizen. We broadcast the truth, and let them decide if their government has been honest with them." Guardian's avatar appeared on screen, a simple geometric shape that somehow conveyed concern. "Commander, such an action would require hacking into every Coalition communication network simultaneously. The effort would tax my processing power significantly and leave the ship vulnerable. Can you do it?" "Yes, but it will take time to establish the necessary connections." "How much time?" 72 hours to infiltrate all networks. The broadcast itself would be instantaneous once ready. Hyunwoo did the math. 5 days until the superweapon arrived. 3 days to prepare the broadcast. That left 2 days for whatever happened after. "Do it. And Daeun, I need every system we have pushed to maximum capability. If we're making our stand, we're doing it at full power." The next 3 days became a blur of activity. Daeun practically lived in engineering, working with Guardian's repair systems to bring the Indomitable to combat readiness. Reactors ran hot, generating more power than they'd produced in centuries. Shield generators were reinforced, and redundancies added. The railguns were calibrated to perfection. Every fighter bay came online, giving them over 300 combat-ready Talons. Meanwhile, Guardian worked on a different kind of attack. The AI infiltrated Coalition networks with subtle precision, leaving no trace of its intrusions. News networks, government channels, military communications, even civilian entertainment systems, all of them became potential broadcast points. Hyunwoo worked with Subin to prepare the message itself. They compiled evidence from the Ara-7 data cache, added analysis of Coalition territorial claims, and included footage of their battles showing Coalition aggression against a vessel that had only defended itself. The message wasn't just information. It was a carefully constructed narrative designed to make people question everything they'd been told. On the 5th day, the Coalition dreadnoughts arrived. 3 massive vessels, each larger than the Indomitable, bristling with weapons and power generators. 75 escort ships accompanied them. It was the largest military force the Coalition had assembled in 400 years. Admiral Veshkor personally commanded the operation from his flagship. His transmission reached the Indomitable immediately. "Surrender immediately, and your crew will be treated with honor. Refuse, and we will destroy you completely. You have 1 hour." End quote. Hyunwoo stood on the bridge, looking at his small crew. 17 people who'd woken from the past into a galaxy that didn't want them. 17 people who'd refused to give up their ship, their pride, or their hope. They'd fought impossible odds and survived. Now, they faced the final test. "Guardian, is the broadcast ready?" he asked. "Affirmative. All Coalition networks have been compromised. The message will reach approximately 400 billion individuals simultaneously. 400 billion. Hyunwoo felt the weight of that number. 400 billion people who would hear humanity's story, learn the truth about their government's foundations, and make their own choices about what happened next. Transmit, Yunwu ordered. Across Coalition space, on thousands of worlds and millions of ships, every screen suddenly displayed the same message. Hyunwoo's face appeared, tired but determined, speaking directly to the camera. My name is Commander Hyunwoo of the United Human Systems vessel Indomitable. 847 years ago, my crew went into emergency cryo-sleep. We woke up to find our civilization gone and a new galactic order built on the bones of what we left behind. He showed the evidence. The evacuation records from Ara 7. The proof that humanity had left voluntarily, not been destroyed. The Coalition's territorial claims based on the assumption of human extinction. We don't blame the Coalition for taking territory they thought was abandoned. But when we woke up and asked for our ship back, they tried to destroy us. 7 times they've attacked. 7 times we've defended ourselves. Now they bring a superweapon to end what they call the human problem. The broadcast showed footage of their battles. Coalition ships, attacking first. The Indomitable fighting defensively. Disabling, rather than destroying. A narrative of aggression, met with restraint. We are 17 people on one ship. We're no threat to anyone. We just want to exist. To find out what happened to our people. To have a place in this galaxy. Is that worth killing us for? Your leaders seem to think so. We ask you to decide for yourselves whether that's the kind of coalition you want to be part of. Aloud. That's not one. We see yes. The message ended. The screens returned to normal programming. But the damage was done. Within minutes, communication networks exploded with activity. Protests formed on dozens of worlds. Council members faced angry questions from their constituents. Military units questioned their orders. The Coalition's unified front began to crack. On the Indomitable's bridge, the hour passed in tense silence. The dreadnoughts moved into position, forming a triangle. Energy began building between them, visible as a glowing lattice of power. The judgment cannon was charging. They're really going to do it, Subin whispered. After everything, they're still going to fire. Maybe the broadcast wasn't enough, Taeho said sadly. But Hyunwoo watched his sensors carefully. He saw something the others hadn't noticed yet. Ships breaking formation. In the Coalition escort fleet. Small vessels at first. Then larger ones. Captains receiving messages from home, hearing about the protests, questioning their orders. Look, he said, pointing at the tactical display. Watch what happens. 10 Coalition ships peeled away from the formation. Then 20. Then 50. Captains making individual choices to disobey orders. They didn't join the Indomitable, but they refused to participate in what they now saw as murder. Admiral Veshkor's frantic orders filled the comm channels, demanding the ships return to position, but the exodus continued. Of the 75 escorts, only 30 remained loyal. The carefully planned attack was falling apart. Judgment cannon at 90% charge, Gordian reported. Recommend immediate evasive action. No, Hyunwoo said calmly. Hold position. Ready all weapons, but do not fire unless fired upon. Let's see if they really have the courage to pull the trigger. The Indomitable hung in space, shields at maximum, fighters deployed in defensive formation, weapons charged but silent. 17 people defying an empire with nothing but determination and truth. The judgment cannon reached 100% charge. The 3 dreadnoughts glowed with barely contained energy. One command from Veshkor, and the Indomitable would cease to exist. The command never came. Instead, Guardian detected new, faster-than-light signatures. Massive spatial distortions forming all around them. Not 1 or 2 ships, but dozens. And their energy signatures were unlike anything in the Coalition database. They were human signatures. And they were coming home. The first human ship appeared like a ghost from the void. Then another. And another. 37 vessels total. Materializing around the Indomitable, in perfect formation. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. Sleek hulls that seemed to bend light around them. Weapons systems that glowed with power beyond anything the Coalition had created. These were ships built by a civilization that had 800 years to advance without interference. Admiral Veshkor stared at his sensors in disbelief. Every display showed the same impossible truth. The humans had returned, and they brought strength that made his superweapon look like a child's toy. The lead vessel transmitted on all frequencies. The voice was calm, authoritative, and absolutely human. "This is Admiral Jae-hoon of the United Human Systems Fleet, commanding the vessel Revenant. We received a signal from our lost brothers and sisters. We've come to bring them home." On the Indomitable's bridge, Hyun-woo felt tears stream down his face. His crew cheered, hugging each other in relief and joy. They weren't alone anymore. After weeks of fighting, running, and hoping against hope, their people had heard them. To the Indomitable, Admiral Jae-hoon continued, "You've done well. Your courage and determination have made us proud. Stand down your weapons. We'll handle things from here. To the Coalition forces, we have no desire for conflict. But we will not allow our people to be harmed. Power down your weapons immediately and withdraw to a safe distance. Any act of aggression will be met with overwhelming response." Veshkor's tactical officer spoke urgently. "Admiral, their power readings are off the scale. Computer analysis suggests their smallest escort ship could destroy one of our dreadnoughts." The Admiral's mandibles clicked in frustration. The judgment cannon was still charged, still capable of firing. One shot could destroy the Indomitable. But it would also trigger a response from the human fleet that would annihilate his forces. He'd come here to eliminate a problem. Now, he faced a catastrophe. "Admiral, we're receiving multiple transmissions from Coalition space," his communications officer reported. "The Council is in emergency session. 3 member species have withdrawn their support. There are mass protests on 17 worlds. The government is collapsing. Close." The broadcast had done its work. The Coalition's foundation, built on questionable claims and aggressive expansion, couldn't withstand public scrutiny. People were demanding answers, demanding reform, demanding their leaders be held accountable. Veshkor made the hardest decision of his career. Power down the judgment cannon. All ships, withdraw to defensive positions only. No hostile actions. Racket, 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 racket. The energy between the dreadnoughts faded. The Coalition fleet retreated, maintaining distance, but not fleeing entirely. It was a surrender without words, an acknowledgement that the balance of power had shifted completely. "Indomitable, this is Revenant. Admiral Jae-hoon requests permission to come aboard your vessel." The transmission came. Hyun-woo wiped his eyes and straightened his uniform. "Permission granted, Admiral. We'd be honored." An hour later, Hyun-woo stood in the Indomitable's main hangar bay, watching as a sleek shuttle settled onto the deck. The hangar had been hastily cleaned, but it still showed signs of battle damage and 8 centuries of dormancy. He wished he could present a better appearance for their rescuers. The shuttle's ramp lowered, and Admiral Jae-hoon emerged. He was younger than Hyun-woo expected, perhaps in his 40s, with sharp eyes that took in everything. Behind him came a small security detail and several officers. They all wore uniforms that were similar to the old human military style, but updated with modern materials and insignia. Jae-hoon approached Hyun-woo and saluted smartly. "Commander, on behalf of the United Human Systems, welcome home." Hyun-woo returned the salute, his hand shaking slightly. "Thank you, Admiral. We thought we were the last. You were the last in known space. But you weren't forgotten." Jae-hoon gestured around the hangar. "May I see your ship? I've only read about supercarriers like this in historical archives." As they walked through the Indomitable's corridors, Jae-hoon explained what had happened to humanity. 847 years ago, faced with increasing galactic tensions, human leadership made a radical choice. They developed experimental faster-than-light gates that could jump beyond the mapped regions of space. An exodus was planned. Secret and swift. Most of humanity passed through the gates to a region they called the Beyond, far from other species and potential conflicts. But not everyone could be found in time, Jaehoon said sadly. Ships on long missions, crews in cryo-sleep, remote outposts. We left behind thousands of people, including your crew. It was supposed to be temporary. We planned to come back once we'd established ourselves. But the gates collapsed after the transit. We lost the coordinates. It took us 8 centuries to rebuild the technology and find our way home. They reached the bridge, where Hyunwoo's small crew stood at their stations. Jaehoon looked around at the 17 people who'd held out against impossible odds. You should know that your signal didn't just guide us here. It inspired our entire civilization. When we heard that someone from the old days was still fighting, still refusing to surrender, it reminded us why we explored the stars in the first place. You gave us a reason to return. Daeun stepped forward. Admiral, what happens now? To us? To the Indomitable? That's your choice, Jaehoon said. You can join the fleet. Your ship would be a valuable asset, and your combat experience would be invaluable for training our forces. Or you can return with us to the Beyond. You've earned rest if you want it. Hyunwoo looked at his crew. Su Bin, who'd discovered the truth about humanity's departure. Tae Ho, who'd managed tactical operations with skill beyond his years. Daeun, who'd kept the ship running through sheer determination. All of them tired, scared, but still standing. What about the coalition? He asked. They're reforming as we speak. Your broadcast forced them to confront uncomfortable truths. Several species are demanding independence. Others want closer ties with us. The galaxy is changing, Commander, and you're the reason why. Guardian's avatar appeared on the main screen. If I may offer input, Commander, my primary mission is to protect this crew. If they wish to rest, I support that decision. However, I have also calculated that our experience fighting coalition forces makes us uniquely qualified to serve as a bridge between species. We understand both the old human ways and the new galactic reality. Hyunwoo smiled. Trust Guardian to be logical even about matters of heart. What do you think? Crew? Vote. Do we retire? Or do we keep flying? One by one, hands went up. All 17 voted to keep going. They'd woken up to an impossible situation and survived. They'd fought battles that should have killed them. They'd refused to give up when surrender was the smart choice. Stopping now felt wrong. Then we keep the Indomitable operational, Hyunwoo told Jaehoon, but not as a warship. We'll be ambassadors. A reminder to everyone, human and alien alike, that determination matters more than power. That truth matters more than convenience. Jaehoon nodded approvingly. The Council would welcome that. And speaking of councils, the Coalition has requested diplomatic talks. They want to negotiate a new relationship with humanity, one based on honesty this time. I think having the Indomitable present for those talks would send the right message. Over the following weeks, the galaxy transformed. The Coalition underwent massive restructuring. Species that had felt oppressed by the central government gained autonomy. New councils formed based on equality rather than dominance. Human territories were officially recognized again, though most of the current inhabitants chose to stay under coalition governance, with clear agreements about sovereignty and rights. The Indomitable underwent repairs in a human shipyard, its systems upgraded to modern standards while keeping its historical character. When it emerged, it was both ancient and new, a symbol of humanity's past and future combined. Commander Hyunwoo stood on the bridge for the relaunch ceremony. His crew had grown. The original 17 remained at key positions, but they'd been joined by volunteers from the returning human fleet. The ship that had held only ghosts now bustled with life. All systems operational, Daeun reported from engineering. Power at 100%. We've never been this capable. Good, Hyunwoo said. Gordian. Set course for Coalition diplomatic space. We have treaties to negotiate. Course plotted, Commander. However, I have a request before we depart. What request? Permission to broadcast a final message on the old human channels. There may be others like you, still sleeping in forgotten places. They should know that if they wake up, they won't be alone. Humanity watches for its lost children. Hyunwoo felt emotion catch in his throat. Permission granted. Send the message. Let them know we're here. The Indomitable jumped to faster than light speed, leaving the shipyard behind. Ahead lay a galaxy that had learned important lessons about truth, power, and respect. Behind lay a trail of battles won not through superior force but through refusal to surrender principles. On a dozen worlds, memorials were built to honor the 17 who'd held the line. History books recorded the story of the ancient carrier that defied an empire. Children learned about Commander Hyunwoo and his crew, about courage in the face of overwhelming odds. But for Hyunwoo himself, the greatest reward was simpler. It was the sight of his bridge crew working in harmony, the sound of Guardian's calm voice providing status updates, the feeling of his ship responding to his commands, alive and purposeful after centuries of dormancy. They'd been left behind by their civilization, abandoned by accident, in a frozen sleep. They'd woken to a galaxy that didn't want them, that tried to erase their very existence, but they'd refused to accept that fate. They'd fought, survived, and ultimately reminded the galaxy that humanity's spirit couldn't be suppressed. The Indomitable sailed through the stars, its mission changed but its purpose clear. It would never be just a warship again. It was a promise, a reminder, and a testament. It said that no matter how long the night, no matter how impossible the odds, some lights refused to go out. And as long as ships like the Indomitable flew, as long as crews like Hyunwoo's served, humanity would never truly be lost. They would endure, adapt, and thrive. Because that's what humans did. That's what they had always done. And that's what they would always do. The galaxy had learned that lesson the hard way. Now it would never forget.